Florida Gators defensive coordinator Austin Armstrong said that RJ Moten is going to be the boundary safety for the Gators. But what does that really mean? We're going to talk about that here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy Monday. Happy first day of camp, by the way. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. And we're talking about the entire show. RJ Moten is going to be playing the boundary safety spot. Yesterday, during UF Media Day, defensive coordinator Austin Armstrong said RJ Moten is likely going to play the boundary safety spot for the Gators this year. And that's noteworthy because, well, you don't say that unless you're implying he's going to be the starting boundary safety. So, which again, look, like we've talked about before, and like we'll talk about again, he didn't come here to be a backup, right? We got that. But I think an important part of that is what exactly is the boundary safety in this defense? What are your responsibilities, and how important is that? Because modern football, you don't really go free safety, strong safety anymore. You call them boundary and field, because the boundary means that when the offense is lined up closer to a hash, then whether it's to the right or the left does not matter. It's not Madden where free safety is always on the right or the left, whatever it is. But no matter which hash the offense is closer to, that's the boundary, the short side of the field. The wide side is the field because, well, there's more field. So that's the field. Boundary is typically thought of as your strong safety mold, we'll say. Like you're more likely to be put in a position to run the alley, make some hits. So boundary is your, again, old schoolish safety, your strong safety style there. Your field safety needs to be able to eat up space in a hurry. You need to be able to be rangy, athletic, all that stuff. But it's important to remember that no matter what names you want to put on them, whether you want to call them free, strong, weak, boundary field, Brian Kelly has post and alley, I think are the two names for his spots. No matter what you want to call them, you're still, for Florida, going to line up often in a too high shell. That is also modern football. Is, hey, pre-snap, we're often going to have two safeties deep, and then we'll rotate down, we'll rotate out, whatever we're going to do, we'll do after you snap the ball. There will be some times where Florida is going to show more of a one high look. That's fine. We'll talk about that in literally a second. But we'll just get to it now. There's times where Florida is going to line up with a single high safety. That is likely going to be the boundary, which it seems counterintuitive because it's like, oh, your field safety is more like your free safety style. Like he's supposed to be your better cover man, the more athletic one, that stuff. He's not the deep safety because the deep safety is often going to be your boundary. Again, pre-snap, deep safety is often going to be your boundary guy because he has less field to cover. So yeah, your boundary guy is your worse cover safety, but lining him up deep there with that boundary doesn't mean that he has a ton of space to cover there. All right. I get it. It sounds counterintuitive, but that's what it is. So in the opposing offense, is lining up towards, we'll say, the right hash, and you have one safety look or one deep safety look, then that deep safety is going to be your boundary. It's going to be RJ Moten. Okay. So the one who's thought of as your strong safety, yeah, he's your deep guy here. That's what that is. And when you go single high, that's just modern football at this point. RJ Moten playing that boundary role, that boundary safety role, is going to be. And also, this is Patrick Toney called boundary and field, same thing. That's not a new thing. I want to make that one abundantly clear as well. This is not like Austin Armstrong revolutionizing the game. He's very modern. Boundary field is a modern way to approach it. I remember last year when they were doing Florida Media Day, Patrick Toney was like, yeah, with our defensive style, anybody can blitz but the field corner, the far corner, which obviously makes a lot of sense because your far corner is not going to come across an entire football field and get a pressure. So anybody can rush but the field corner. Wouldn't shock me if Austin Armstrong was like, you know what, though? I'm rushing him. Would not shock me at all because he's kind of a sicko like that, and that's what we like here. This is a sicko podcast. We like that approach. But it is interesting and important to note that RJ Moten, again, Austin Armstrong saying, hey, RJ Moten's likely going to play the boundary spot for us, likely implies, hey, RJ Moten's going to, 1, start for us, and 2, play that boundary spot, meaning that you're still looking for your field safety. He did not name the field. RJ playing that boundary spot gives Florida a very experienced player there. And look, obviously, ideally, when you're talking about this secondary, Florida has 2 starting safeties that can play the field and the boundary spots. And if you ask me, I don't think Florida has the luxury of having those fully interchangeable pieces right now. I do think that RJ Moten can play both because I think he did it at Michigan. So I expect that he could do it here. But I don't think that there's that complementary piece that can do that also with him. So yes, RJ Moten is basically that's like on the depth chart. Would not shock me if it. I mean, I know they just put safety, but when people are like ourlads.com, strong safety should be RJ Moten. That's your boundary guy. That's just the modern approach here. That's his role. He's still going to be obviously a very key part of this defense. The boundary is so important because again, you have to be able to do everything still. Like you still have to be able to cover the deep middle. You have to be able to operate in man. You're probably going to be thrown against tight ends more frequently there. You have to be able to run the alley and actually make the stop. You got to be able to hang and bang. You still have to do everything that any safety can do, even if you're considered the strong safety. It's not Cam Chancellor days anymore where you could be a linebacker and do that. No, you have to be able to be interchangeable and versatile here. And I think RJ is going to destroy that role. And I'll tell you more about that after I tell you about eBay Motors, because today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team like Florida's trying to build, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. Same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time that you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can make sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Add your ride to my garage, look for the green check to know that a part will fit, or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. It's very easy to bring home a win when all the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're talking RJ Moten here still because, 1, I'm a big fan of his film that he put up at Michigan. And 2, Austin Armstrong said, hey, RJ Moten, going to be our boundary guy, which again is important. Key part, safety's here. You need to be able to do everything on the field, everything that this defense is going to ask you to do. I personally believe that RJ Moten can do that. I think he's a versatile player. I said this when he came over from Michigan. I was like, hey, I like what he brings to the table. I think he's better suited as a box kind of guy, but I think that he's plenty capable of playing that deep safety spot. Not to an Earl Thomas level, but he'd be, and I need this to be clear, that I know I'm not setting the bar high when I say this. Like, it's not a hard bar to reach. He's going to be an improvement over what Florida had at their deep safeties last year. Okay? And when I say deep safeties, I genuinely just mean like safety spots. I just say deep safety frequently. So I think RJ Moten is going to be an improvement over what you had last year at safety, which is not saying much. Again, I still firmly believe that both of those safeties that were with Florida last year, Torrance and Trey Dean, have roles in the NFL. I think that they have that spot. I do not think they were fits for what Patrick Toney likes to do at all. Hopefully, they're better off now. I wish the best to them. But anyway, this is about 2023 Florida Gators. And Austin Armstrong saying that, hey, RJ Moten's going to be our boundary guy means, like what we've talked about here before, he didn't transfer here to be a backup. Okay? RJ Moten started on Michigan. I understand towards the end of the year he was not starting. I get it. Don't think I'm like, oh, completely blacking out that part of my mind. No, I get that RJ Moten started for Michigan and lost that starting spot towards the end of the year. I also understand that one, Florida was really bad at safety last year. He's an improvement. Two, the biggest thing is that RJ Moten had two defensive coordinators during his time in Michigan. Both of them ran very similar defensive schemes to each other. They also ran very similar defensive schemes to Patrick Toney and Austin Armstrong. Of course, Patrick Toney's with the Cardinals and irrelevant to RJ Moten's presence, but I just want to make that part clear because a lot of secondary members are now every defender for the Florida Gators has had two defensive coordinators over the past 2 years, three over the past 3 years. But schematically, from last year to this year, there's not much difference on the back end. Just schematically, like when things are called, how frequently they are. Yes, that's going to change. Tendencies are going to change. But it's still a lot of quarters and a lot of cover three. Those are the two most common things that you're going to see from this secondary coverage-wise. That's what Patrick Toney, that's what Austin Armstrong likes to do. That's what Patrick Toney liked to do. We'll see more cover three this year than quarters, which I think will benefit everybody in this secondary. It is going to be interesting to see how it goes. RJ Moten, I think, is the kind of the key to that. Because again, RJ Moten can play both the field and the boundary. And I think he could play genuinely the deep center fielder type in cover three. He could play the flat in cover three. He could play the buzz. I think he's kind of the I don't want to say Swiss Army knife because I don't think he's really being everywhere. But his ability to operate in any of those zone responsibilities does open things up for Austin Armstrong. Because you can show that too high look and you can have RJ Moten be the guy that drops. And he probably will be frequently. And by drops, I mean to that center fielder deep safety spot. You can have him be the one that rotates out while your field comes down to play that run the alley, basically. And I think that versatility is huge to have in this secondary because I don't think that I don't think either Miguel Mitchell or Kamari Wilson can do that as seamlessly as RJ Moten can. Because the big difference there also is RJ Moten has the experience that neither of them have. Yes, Kamari, I think, has 2 official starts, and I believe Miguel Mitchell has the 1 official start at Star. I don't think that either of them, and yes, they played 12 games, great. They don't have the experience in the secondary that really helps you at this point. RJ Moten has the experience that helps you because you're replacing 80% of your starting secondary? Or I don't want to say replacing, but you have new starters at 80% of your starting secondary because Jaden Hill started at the corner spot. Now he's playing the nickel. And then, of course, both safeties and the spot that Jaden Hill left open at corner, you also need a replacement for. So there's new starters at 4 of the 5 spots. That's why I'm like, okay, great. RJ Moten bringing in that experience, knowing how to operate this defense and being comfortable doing that, kind of just need to pick up the terminology at that point, is huge for Florida's defense to kind of get up to speed. Because we are a month away from Utah. Like it's coming fast. And so you're a month away from Utah, and now you've really got to get going. Training camp starts today. That's awesome. Fall camp is here. Great. You've got to get going, and I think RJ Moten's presence helps you just be a little bit ahead of the curve of where you would have been if you didn't have him. Because if you didn't have him, you would have had Miguel Mitchell, Kamari Wilson sharpied in as your starters. And it would have probably taken a while to get used to it, because that's just like that. That's how it would work out with these 2 true sophomores trying to step into this role. They probably would have struggled quite a bit early on. I think with RJ Moten, that kind of covers up, we'll say, the deficit a little bit and helps you get ready sooner for the Utah game. And so I think with RJ Moten, he's the perfect fit for this defense schematically. He's got experience in this defense schematically. He's a great fit with Austin Armstrong specifically. And he helps your defense just be ready a little bit sooner. Cannot be overstated how important that is for the Gators going into 2023 season. Again, starting off against Utah. You don't get to start off against a cupcake. You need to go in against an elite program in the Pac-12 and take them out. You're traveling too, so you're going to Utah to handle that. Got to be able to do it. Looking at that other starting safety spot opposite RJ Moten, it's Miguel Mitchell. Plain and simple for me. Like it's Miguel Mitchell. And I know every time that I come on this show and I talk about safeties and I say, hey, one spot's RJ Moten. He didn't come here to be a backup. He didn't come here to be a rotational piece. He came here to be a starter. And he's the best safety on the roster. Okay? Every time I say that, no one has an issue with it, really. I get it. There's comments that are like, oh, but he got benched at Michigan. I don't care. He's still better than anybody you have, okay? He got benched on a playoff team. That defense was what they do. Okay? And then I say, the other starting safety, it's going to be Miguel Mitchell. I know I get the comments because I say frequently, like, hey, I know that the staff is very high on Miguel Mitchell. I've spoken to staff before, and they've said, hey, Miguel Mitchell's probably our best safety. So I get it. Every time I say that, though, I get the comments, you're sleeping on Kamari. No, I'm not. Okay? No, I'm not. Kamari's going to shock the world. He could. Probably won't, but he could. And every other comment that it just makes people think that I'm saying RJ Moten and Miguel Mitchell are going to be the starting safeties. And it makes people think that I'm somehow insulting Kamari Wilson. I'm not. Okay? I have nothing against Kamari. I just think he's the 3rd best safety on this team. Simple as that. It's not rude. It's not offensive in any way, shape, or form. It's not. It's just my evaluation of watching them. And I get it. Kamari was a 5-star. Miguel Mitchell was a 3-star. Kamari played this many snaps. Miguel played this many snaps. I do not care. Okay? Not in the slightest. RJ Moten is going to play the boundary spot. Okay? That's the boundary. That's typically your strong safety spot. In modern football, when you're going with an offense is on a hash mark and you have one high look, you've got your boundary as that deep guy, right? Okay, that means you're still looking for your field safety, right? The field safety, especially when you show that single high look, is pretty damn comparable to your star or nickel spot. Okay? So you've got your deep guy here, and then you have the field safety, and he's going to play that star nickel spot alignment-wise. It's basically a second star or nickel. That is otherwise known as, hear me out, the spot Miguel Mitchell got a start at last year. The spot he played last year more. Yes, Kamari has more snaps in the slot by like 15. Kamari also played 200 more snaps. Okay? And again, not to be rude or anything, but he wasn't awesome at them. But Kamari Wilson is better suited to play that boundary safety spot that RJ Moten already has. So it's nothing against Kamari at all. It's that he's best suited to play the boundary, and that's what RJ Moten's going to play. He can rotate down to the field spot every now and then, sure, and play it, I think, okay, fine. But Miguel Mitchell played that star spot, which is comparable to the field safety spot, especially when you're showing a single high look. And I think he did. I think both of them can play the quarters part of it pretty equally. But I think that Miguel Mitchell has more experience. I think he's more athletic, at least as far as lateral agility and moving with range. I think he's better than Kamari in that realm. Okay? It's not an insult to Kamari at all. It's just I think Miguel Mitchell and RJ Moten are the best safety duo you can come up with for the Florida Gators. I think they're the safety duo that gives the Florida Gators the best chance of winning for the Florida Gators defense, helping them actually make these stops and make these plays. Kamari's going to play a hell of a lot more snaps this year probably than he played last year. However, I don't think he's going to be a starter. And that it's as simple as it's not rude. I'm not saying he's not good enough. I'm just saying I think that there's a better fit with Miguel Mitchell and RJ Moten. I think RJ Moten's best safety on the team. I think Miguel Mitchell's much better suited to play the field safety than Kamari Wilson. That's all it is. It's as simple as that. And I know I'm still gonna get the YouTube comments that are, "You're sleeping on Kamari." No, I'm not. You just can't get over yourself. It's as simple as that. But anyway, thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33, and I'll see you all tomorrow.